But he's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall, and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minutes!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bat Minutes. We hope you're all well, because we're not. Not emotionally, we're disappointed, not terribly, but still. We're here to talk about something that we all take for granted this week, the colon. What does it look like? I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan, or at least I hope I am. I'm wearing his underwear.
And after the two curries I've had, I at least know what happens with the colon this week. You know, I'm your other host, John Parker.
How spicy did you go, John? What's your spice threshold?
I'm not into like crazy spicy. I don't go for like a vindaloo and a fall and all that kind of stuff. I don't like that. I like it. I like to get a little bit of a sweat going. That's when you know it's good. Like a little bit of a sweat on the brow.
Okay. I actually just had just for dinner a homemade lamb biryani, and it was pardon my French, it was brilliant. I was astounded how good it was. But anyway, that's John Parker, and we're here today to talk about Real Genius. You probably saw from the title of the episode that you're currently listening to. But we're not here alone. We're here with two other real geniuses, or Geni. Geni? Whatever.
Some genius
right?
you are.
But we're joined once again, returning all the way from. Well, I think last time you two guys were together on here was for Mars Attacks, way, way back when.
Oh, yeah. That was a minute.
Was that a while ago?
Bloody
That feels like about 2 weeks ago.
I think it was... It was like, 2 years ago now, I guess? Yeah. It was between Returns and Forever, so that's a while back now. But
Jesus.
But anyway, it's Neil Brown and George Hendricks of the Mogwai Minute.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, we are here.
Hey.
We're
Thanks
back.
for reminding me of that traumatic experience of having
Wonderful
to watch
Tim Burton joint.
that crappy movie.
I do... I might cut this part out because it might be a spoiler for something coming up on the Patreon, but I did buy, because you can get them dead cheap on eBay, a little something for me and John, the novelization of Mars Attacks. We'll drop that around to John's house someday. Like, it'll be a couple of months' time. We'll cover that.
Oh, page by page.
Not with me, you won't. Although the book's always better than the film, isn't it? In this case,
Listen,
it
if
already
you do a
can't be that
dramatic
much.
reading, you know I'm in.
Oh my god. I might actually turn up for that one.
Just a series of sections of the book, episodically doing the dramatic reading of Mars Attacks.
Let's do it.
You have to do impressions of all the characters, though.
Oh, of course. No, I will do all the voices. That's why I want to do it.
The thing is, Neil obviously did not have much time for Mars Attacks, and we're back in the land of the Valley of Val Kilmer here, talking about... Last time we talked about Val Kilmer, we talked about a movie that wasn't so great, The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Wait, hang on. No, you thought it wasn't so great. I thought it was amazing.
Well, the thing is, I'm fingers crossed here now going into this, because I would say this movie, Real Genius, is potentially one of the best things Val Kilmer's ever been in, and I want to get what is everyone's opinions of this movie?
I will agree with that 100%, Niall. 100%.
I had a lot of fun watching this. It wasn't perfect. I had a couple of issues, but otherwise, no, I really, really enjoyed it.
Okay. And Neil, was that grumbling coming from your side of the mic there?
Most likely. Well, you guys, I hadn't seen this movie before, and you guys prepped me for it by saying you're going to actually like this one, I think, Neil, knowing that I like stuff from the 80s. This is from the 80s.
This is very much
It's
from the 80s.
very of the time.
So I went in with that in mind, and as I was watching it, I was kind of thinking to myself, all right, okay, when am I going to like it? At some point, I'm sure I'm going to like this movie, and I didn't hate it, right? So that's good for me. Got some issues with it, like you, John. Well, I'm sure we'll get to, but I mean, just for me, it was all right.
Well, that's praise though. That's still
For Neil, I guess, yeah.
It was fine.
Val's great in it as well. I mean, I don't care. We're going to jump around, aren't we? Val, amazing.
Oh yeah, he's the shining star of this movie.
It's a weird situation though, because like he is the guy you remember the most, and he's the one they put on the poster, and it's like meet Chris Knight and all this kind of stuff. From the Dark Knight to Chris Knight with Val Kilmer here. But the thing is, if you watch it, it's like Chris Knight isn't the main character though.
It's
That's
not his
like
movie.
No, he's not.
yeah, it's like it's about this other kid, Mitch, and then Chris Knight is like his. It would be like if they promoted Seinfeld and we are just really focused on Kramer the whole time during promotion. It's like, well, it's not about him. It's about another guy.
Well, no-
But Chris Knight is there, I guess. You
Well,
know?
nobody's going to, like, enjoy watching that kid. His character is boring, and he kind of has to be for the plot.
Yeah.
He is the audience surrogate of, okay, I have to come into this.
He's extremely boring for a pre-transition Sarah Jessica Parker.
I believe I've also seen people compare him to Rachel Maddow several times. So.
Who is the kid, right?
He looked just like Sarah Jessica Parker.
Has he been in anything else?
Well,
Because
John, like almost everyone in this movie, the answer to that is no. There are one or two people that have, which I'm sure we'll get to. But as I was looking through the cast, you know when you just Google like a name, someone's name, an actor's name, and then you can kind of click on what movies they've been in, right?
Yeah.
And Google will pull up that list, and they'll show you the little thumbnails of the movie, right? Well, almost everyone in this movie, when you do that, Real Genius is top left, meaning that's the main one they've been in.
Yeah.
because it's great.
It wasn't really a launching point for a lot of careers.
No.
But there's a few people that you recognize.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, the main kid, Mitch, which isn't a very nerd name. Mitch is like a jock name, but for some reason they called him Mitch.
Yeah, but you know his name is Mitchell, and he shortened it to Mitch to try to relate to the people around him.
He's trying to sound cool.
But he is also in Going Ape with an exclamation mark, which is
There you
we've
go.
talked about a couple of times before because it has Danny DeVito in it and
Yep.
Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development and Tony Danza are the stars of that movie. It's about them just owning an ape. It's like, that sounds like an instant classic.
Isn't this
So-
already on your list for your potential podcast, I Do Declare?
Oh yeah, oh very much so, very much so. He's also in Karate Kid 3. He's Rocky.
Ah, yes, the least watched Karate Kid. And actually, I thought the kid who's Mitch, to me, he had a Ralph Macchio vibe to his acting.
I liked him a lot more than I like Ralph Macchio, the young Ralph Macchio.
You
I'll
don't
tell you
like
that
Ralph
much.
Macchio?
Not in Crike. He's a bit of a tool, isn't he? In Crike.
No.
Well, I think that is the basis of Cobra Kai now. Is like, wasn't Danny LaRusso a bit of a dick?
Yeah,
And it's like, we can make a whole TV
Yeah, it's
show
like-
about
like-
that.
It's like you were fine as a kid under the tutelage of Mr. Miyagi, but once he went his other way, like you just turned into a dick.
Although I recently rewatched The Outsiders, and the C. Thomas Howell and Ralph Macchio are kind of like the main characters in that. And Ralph Macchio is freaking fantastic in that movie. Like it's kind of incredible. Like, why isn't he a bigger deal? He's really good in this.
He was also really good in My Cousin Vinny. That's the one thing I really like him in.
Yeah. When he was a Ute.
A Ute.
I feel betrayed by him now though, because I was just like, he looks so well for his age, and then someone pointed out like, he's wearing a wig, right? And it's like, oh no, it's all subterfuge. He actually looks like a proper middle-aged man.
It's Hollywood magic. Razzle dazzle.
With the start of Real Genius right here, at the very beginning, we kind of get the basic layout of the plot, and I thought in retrospect it kind of spoiled it a bit, right? Because we see this scene at the beginning where the government are developing a weapon.
Yeah, like this fake commercial for the Crossbow series.
Yeah.
Crossbow
And they're
project.
developing this weapon and stuff, and ultimately that's what the movie will be about. It's a dark film. They're tricking children into building super weapons. And I think it would be better if we didn't see this scene, if we didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a fair point. Yeah.
I agree, and mainly because I watch this many times on cable, which means I always miss like the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie. So when I watched it again I actually have a Blu-ray of it now, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this part.
But wouldn't that have been an exciting revelation? Like if we, the audience, found out like when they do.
Yeah, that would be great. I agree.
Yes,
I
much
feel like
better.
it's a solid misstep on their part.
I went, looking at this, watching this opening, I was really hopeful that it would be more like a RoboCop type kind of satirical kind of. I thought it was like a TV advert or something.
But to be fair, you always want everything to be RoboCop.
So that is true. So the government has made an advert for its top secret No one's supposed
it's
to
like
know.
a promo commercial.
It's literally hired actors.
Proof of
to make
concept.
this thing.
Yeah.
It's basically like the Star Wars defense system, but more. It's basically if Ronald Reagan came out, it's like, yes, make me an advert for
But it's supposed to be a
this thing.
secret. They're making adverts for it.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, well, it's
actually.
not going to go on primetime cable. It's just going to be on it's just for circulation amongst the weird suits, all the white guys and then the one black guy.
I suppose
risky.
it would be harder
That's
to
what I'd
leak
say.
it back then. There's no internet.
Yeah,
Someone's got a tape of that.
not going to wind up on Twitter.
I do think it would work because the opening credits are all showing you blueprints, but they're all blueprints of
For weapons, yeah.
So-
It's a great tie-in if that were the button. That was the opening, and they just showed that weird credits, and then they went into just the college
Yeah.
stuff, and then the science fair.
Yes.
And then later we find out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
like, oh, that's why they did that. But,
But
they show you up front, it's not even because the people who kind of get their comeuppance at the end isn't these guys, but they are blatantly showing you these people are murderous. And at one point, when one of them disagrees, is like, no, I don't want any part of this, and walks out. They're like, oh yeah, we should liberate this guy, which is very kind of that's the way the U.S. liberates certain other countries and stuff.
Yeah, they're gonna free him from life.
Yeah. It's an indication. It's that guy is going to be killed.
They even make sure they say that do you mean liquidate? It's okay, thanks for pounding that one home, bud.
It was a weird choice of words. Because liquidate, yes, okay, I know what you mean. But yeah, liberate?
But this movie has a bit of an identity crisis for me. It starts with this kind of serious, or what is supposed to be serious, government top secret murder weapon thing, and then quite quickly goes into science geek comedy frat house hijinks movie, and it never really kind of resolves that for me. And it made me think of Short Circuit, which comes later. What year was this one? 85? 85. Short Circuit came in 86. But Short Circuit, I think, does it a bit better. It introduces it's quite a serious movie at the start, Short Circuit. I mean, in a way. It introduces the robots, shows you what they're able to do with the lasers and all that. And then, obviously, Johnny Five breaks free, and then it's into a different kind of territory. But it seems to kind of wrap it up and resolve that a lot better for me.
I won't disagree. I like this, but Short Circuit, come on. You can't mess with that. That's a masterpiece.
Honestly, I like this better than Short Circuit. I do.
I think I like this more than Short Circuit because I think, I think I just.
Yeah.
No way.
See?
What is
See?
happening to the world when Short Circuit isn't considered a classic?
It is a classic. I just think this is more classic.
Yeah, I have no beef with Short Circuit.
This one's more fun. It's got. You talk about having an identity crisis. I think it just likes to. It goes from the serious, then it goes to the sort of the Revenge of the Nerds vibe. The sort of oh, we're a bunch of misfits, but we're great. And then it sort of shifts into a coming of age story because this young kid's got to learn how to balance having fun and still being the smart. And then it shifts into a heist movie, which is perfect.
And Neil, you did bring up initially there, the sort of frat housey kind of element to it, and I thought that was quite interesting. The way normally in these movies, the nerds, the geeky kids are portrayed. It's not normal in this. They've gone for much cooler. They're misfits, as you said, George. They're outsiders. They're quirky.
Yeah, they took. This was made by Martha Coolidge, who also did Valley Girl and whatnot. And she took this the prep for this very seriously. She went and hung out on with Caltech students, the California Tech.
Which is what this college is based off of. It's basically like a movie version of Caltech.
Yeah, and it's she did her and the screenwriters did a lot of research into getting these characters down and making it kind of true to the spirit of that. Of that school as possible. So I don't think it was designed to be Revenge of the Nerds. So oh yeah.
No, she actually refused the initial offer because she didn't want to do a Revenge of the Nerds song.
Oh, that's great because
she was like, no, this is not for me. It's too many dick jokes, too many poop jokes. This is just like a campy stupid comedy. It's not for me. So when she brought on, she was specifically like, I'm going to make the science as real as possible, and we're going to make this legitimately be able to people are going to be like, oh, that actually makes sense, science wise, not just magic movie science where it's oh, the thing happens and there's the MacGuffin and boom. No unobtainium in this movie.
I don't know enough about science to know if what they're saying is true, but they delivered it so well that I accepted it.
I think that's
Moles and trolls.
I think that's why I've taken into it so much as well, because I am terrible at mathematics and science,
same.
but I love the culture of it, and like I love, like, when I grew up, I wanted to be like Doc Brown. I wanted to be like a crazy mad scientist. I was just terrible at the actual theoretical parts of being, a scientist. So I think that's why I was so drawn to this. It's just like, oh, I'd love to be like that, but I just don't have the mindset. I've tried when I was in school. I was like, all right, I'm going to get into this. And I was just sitting there like, oh my God, it's so boring. It's like, why can't I just make like a giant cherry or something? Like that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to go for.
Well,
Or an ice that goes directly from the solid to a gas.
oh, that's amazing.
In the spirit, actually, I picked up a drink that I thought not only goes in with the crazy, wacky science experiments of Real Genius, but knowing that you two guys enjoy your taste fusions. I got a beer. Well, yeah, I got a Stars and Stripes peanut butter and jelly porter.
Ooh.
Ew.
And let me tell you, it's I wouldn't drink more than one.
Yeah. I feel like I tried it and I'm done.
It's a taste sensation, and then it's out.
I would maybe have it, on a regular basis, but only one myself. Like you don't sit and drink 4 pints of that.
No, it's very, very, very.
I don't
sweet.
think I would sit and drink 1 pint of that.
You can't get drinks less than a pint. Come on.
Oh, maybe in a flight, I'd get a flight, and then I would try that in the flight, and then I would be done.
That giant cherry reminded me of Buckaroo Banzai, and I think there's quite a bit of Buckaroo Banzai in this movie. What do you guys think?
Well, the thing is, because I am on record as not liking Buckaroo Banzai, so now I'm intrigued that you brought this up.
Well, they do sort of build a little bit of a sort of like a nerd dream team as they sort of accumulate their cohorts. The ones that sort of like don't lose their shit, and the ones that are not Kent sort of like coalesce into this little like group.
I love that it's got the stereotype of like, we need to band together all the misfits into a super team. But that never really comes into play until the very, very end. I thought that was quite funny. It's like, you don't need these other guys that they're working with. They're kind of pointless. And as you were saying before about the sort of realism of the characters and stuff, whenever I've known groups of, dare I say, nerds like this, these are a lot more realistic. This is how they act. Maybe not, over the top, like completely Val Kilmer turning the whole building into an ice rink. But, like their general mannerisms and quirkiness. It's more like this, less like Big Bang Theory. Get it right, people.
Big Bang Theory is just a crime against humanity, quite frankly.
I'm pretty sure Big Bang Theory is a ripoff of Real Genius. They're like, what happened if all the kids from Real Genius grew up and lived in an apartment together?
Hey, I want a
Bang
sequel.
Theory.
I was going to save this till the very end, but the way this movie does finish, right? I want a sequel or a TV show. It does that annoying old thing of just ending.
They were going to do a TV show.
Oh.
I was reading up about that in 2014, which seems weird to at that point go back.
That feels like trying to cash in on Big Bang Theory. It's like, let's make something similar. The Big Bang Theory is a kind of like it's a ripoff of Real Genius, but then it's like, the TV show of Real Genius would be a ripoff of the Big Bang Theory. But
to use Real Genius because it's got some cachet, it's got some currency, right, in the name.
Yeah, because it's got that 80s like cred and like that fun retro vibe that everyone's trying to like.
And you could
cash
make
in
it more for the nerds rather than laughing at them, like the way Silicon Valley does it.
Yeah, this movie is not derogatory towards nerds.
No.
It is like, we revel in the nerd world. We want you to shine. And
I wonder if back in 2014, I Val Kilmer, was not as ill as he is kind of now. Not that I really know how ill he is, but he's not in the best shape or health,
he's not
as
doing
far
too
as I
good.
know, and he's certainly not acting anymore, as far as I know. But maybe back in 2014, they were thinking, we might be able to still get Val to kind of, do a little turn in it every now and again.
Yeah,
at that point, that was when he was doing the voice of Kit in that friggin' Knight Rider reboot they were trying. So I was like, Val will be up for anything, I guess, at this point.
But it obviously didn't go anywhere, and that's probably for the best.
I just got this one little bit of talking about like the realism and the research that went behind the movie. Pulling from its IMDb trivia page, which, top-notch research I've been doing here, it says, with one notable exception, the antics in the film are based on stunts pulled off in the higher educational institutes, such as England's Cambridge University, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Caltech. For example, the appearance in a student bedroom of an automobile with its motor still running is based on an actual incident, as was the state-of-the-art seminar in which a tape recorder delivers a lecture to a room full of other recording machines. The Smart People on Ice sequence, featuring the conversion of Pacific Tech Dorm into a winter carnival complete with skating rink and bobsleigh course by laying down a carpet of frozen volatile gas, is similar to a prank staged annually at Caltech. So that's a thing that they
I
do.
thought that was the
apparently.
one that was fake.
No,
Yeah, what's the one that isn't real?
it doesn't actually mention which one isn't real. I'm assuming it's got to be.
Well, you can't say there's one that's not
The
real
pool
and then not
party.
say which
Surely
one's not real.
The pool party in the lecture hall.
I love that pool party though because it's so 80s movie.
That seems feasible.
But they're geeks and nerds. They don't go to parties.
And all the student beauticians.
They had girls there in bikinis.
Of course that
This
didn't
is
happen.
Way too fake.
I'm assuming it's gotta be the popcorn at the end. That's because apparently they had to do an absolute like metric ton of work to get that to pull off in the movie. So they're like, I can't imagine that was actually based on something because it took them effort to do it for fiction. Particularly the fact you'd need like a friggin' satellite laser thing to do it.
Yeah, everyone remembers that in the news, when the government shot a giant laser from space. And
Space lasers.
But I will say that there's one thing we talked about like briefly last year, and now we're talking about this movie. It's like, well, we can get into it because one of the things with Val Kilmer's portrayal of Bruce Wayne was that he was like kind of dead inside, and he was a sort of a bit of a. People say it was a bland version of the character. We argue like, no, it's a man who's emotionally like cored out,
but still pretty bland.
Yeah, well, but, depending on your interpretation. But then it's just so weird then to see him go back into like Chris Knight, who is essentially he's like Tony Stark crossed with Edward Nygma, like Jim Carrey's Edward Nygma. He's got that manic energy, but he's also got the Tony Stark swagger and stuff.
And crossed with regular Batminute guest Kit Flemons.
A little bit, yeah. And it is kind of like you're sitting watching it going like, I wonder if at any point they were like, we kind of wanted a bit more of Chris Knight in your Bruce Wayne. Like, not a lot.
It is also interesting because he's coming off of Top Secret for this. So it's like he did that and then this, and he's like really setting himself up as like this like legitimate like comedic like weird guy actor.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the Johnny Depp vibe, like later on when he's like, I'm just kind of like all over the place. I'm just going to be a weirdo, but I'm like really good looking and this and that. So it's interesting. I wonder where his like transition from, oh, I'm the funny guy to no, I have to be I'm going to be like dead inside.
Because it
Batman.
can't just be for Batman, right? There must have been something before.
He
to
went
set him
straight into Top Gun as Iceman.
And I guess that's what did it. Yeah, it makes
Right?
sense because he's like, oh, now I'm cool. Now I'm a sex symbol, not just like a weird
it's
guy.
minimalist, isn't he, Iceman? He doesn't really say anything unless he
Yeah.
means it.
Yeah.
I guess as
You
well, like, they
can't
like,
read anything
go
from
in like full method for Jim Morrison and stuff then too. I guess he's just getting
Yeah.
more serious as he goes on. But apparently Val Kilmer, like as we talked about last season, like he was always very serious. He was a guy going up to like when he was playing like a chicken in McDonald's commercials or whatever, he'd be like, "What's my motivation?" And the director would be like, "What are you talking about? That's
Like,
your
"Do I-
motivation."
Do I cross the road at any time?
Well, what's interesting looking at his filmography is I didn't realize he went straight from Batman Forever to do Heat.
Yeah,
And he seems a lot older in Heat.
There is a big difference, and it's not. How long after is it? Like only like a year or two?
Same year, both 95.
Same year.
Isn't that crazy? They're just so different. They're so different, those characters.
Well, that shows what a good actor he is, I suppose. Like it's a it's a shame he's not obviously
good
able
actor.
to
He
do
did
more
Tombstone, but in Tombstone he was kind of the comic relief.
Yeah.
So I guess he was drawing on his older roots there.
like again with Tombstone, you're thinking like, is it we want Doc Holliday as Batman? We don't want this guy you've given us. Like this, this man who seems to be the life is drained straight out of him. He's like, well, that's my interpretation of Bruce Wayne. It's like, well, we wanted your interpretation of Doc Holliday or Chris Knight for Christ's sake. We didn't want this.
But then in
His
this
sweat
as
was
well,
drained out of him, quite literally. Tombstone.
then-
Never before have I seen a man sweat so much.
He was missed it a lot.
We'll also note for anyone who wants them, you can get Chris Knight's I Heart Toxic Waste t-shirt on Redbubble. Like,
Get that merch.
so I did see it and I was like, I wonder if you can get that. Seems like a thing you'll definitely be able to get. And sure enough, you type in Real Genius. It's like, yep, first thing that comes up is I Heart Toxic
I
Waste.
kind of want it. His whole fashion sense in this is incrable.
Oh yeah.
He looks
He's
amazing.
very extra.
Yeah,
I mean,
his
he's-
slippers and everything.
See, I absolutely. He's doing things like Chris Knight's kind of dressing the way I used to like dressed in university, like showing up with like Martian like antennae things
Yeah,
in their heads. Like that's the kind of thing I would do. I was like, oh, so I get this guy.
Plus, he's the kid we meet at the start. He's the typical high school nerd. You're like, okay, he's not cool. We've all met this kid. But Val here, he is the elder nerd. He's become more sure of himself. He's like, I don't care. I'm super clever.
He's been through the fire and flame. He's come out on the other side as I'm gone from nerd to eccentric.
Exactly, and that is a big difference.
Is that a confidence thing? He's confident in it now, so he can just wear, I'll just wear the bunny slippers. It's fine. I don't give a shit.
It kind of makes you wonder what part of like I'm a nerd makes you self-identify with wearing blazers and ties in high school.
Yeah. I wonder what's the connection? It must just be looking at your heroes, and that's how they're dressing, I guess.
I think I always just took it to be that nerds don't have any fashion sense in general, so they kind of just dress the way that their mother used to dress them. Like when you were trying to be smart, it's like, nice shirt tucked in, button to the top, look neat, and that's like, and they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like they don't care about anything else. So, they care about too many other things to care about what they're dressed in and stuff. It's like in The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, because at one point he shows he's like, I've got a wardrobe full of exactly the same clothes. Because he's just like, I never want to have to think about what I'm going to wear, so I just pull one.
Part of it's just like they spend so much brain real estate on other things. They're like, I don't have time to think about my clothing.
Yeah,
but is he one note in that sense, the character, or Nick Rivers, Chris Knight? Nick Rivers is top secret. Is Chris Knight one note as a character, or do you see? Is there a vulnerability exposed at any point?
Well, he does have moments where he talks about later. It's like, I was you. I have evolved into me, but I was you. Like meaning like there's an unshown arc.
And
there.
a lot of people I know were like super intelligent, like this kind of, maybe not to this degree, but they go through that exact process. Like when they get a little bit older, they're kind of cool in people's eyes. Like they've completely reversed. It's like a strange shift. And they gain a confidence that's not cocky and showing off, but they're like, I'm happy with the way things are going for me now,
Yeah.
And you see that he has fun and he like jerks around and stuff, but he's exceptionally talented and clever. And then when he does sort of knuckle down and do the exams and stuff, he actually turns up. He shows up. He even buttons his shirt to the top.
There's a moment though. It's one of those things like I guess you have to take it as it's the 80s. And it's an 80s comedy where like he shows up to do that exam, and then at the end he leaves an apple on Jerry's desk, and we'll talk about Jerry in a minute because my God. And so Jerry's just like, oh God, because he hates Chris Knight so much, he's like, he picks up the apple and throws it in the bin, and the bin instantly explodes. So it's like that was an explosive apple he left him. That's never mentioned again.
He was going to kill him.
If not kill me, blowing his hand off or something.
It was a very low yield explosion. He knows his
True.
math.
But even at that though, Jerry's trying to get rid of this guy. All you have to do is like, he friggin' gave me like a goddamn detonation
or
device.
maybe the apple itself wasn't explosive. There was something in the trash can that was triggered by the apple because he knew he'd throw it away.
It's like Die Hard with a Vengeance, where it's like it has to chemically mix with another thing.
Exactly. Red light, green light.
Speaking of Die Hard, we would be remiss if we did not bring up the fact that Jerry Hathaway here is played by legendary William Atherton.
What legendary scumbag? Has he ever played a nice character?
I remember him in Sugarland Express, where he's like the main character, and he's a very likable. Like, he's a criminal in it, but he's a really lovable kind of guy. And then to see him go from that to exclusively playing assholes, it's like, I guess he found his niche. But
well, that's the thing. Like immediately in this, I was like, I don't like this guy. And maybe it is because of his past roles, like Ghostbusters and things. But
forgot he was in that.
I was sort of like, immediately I was like, I don't like the way he's talking to this kid. He seemed a bit groomy, shall I say. He's like grooming this child. It's very strange.
It's bizarre tweed windbreaker he's wearing as well.
At the science fair. So can you, George, maybe you need to explain to me, what is this, the thing that they're at? What is it like a science
fair?
We don't have these.
Do you guys don't have science fairs?
No.
Yeah, it's like not every year, but like every couple of years when you're like in the younger grade, basically where you pick a science project, you experiment, and then you put it on display and everyone kind of comes around and checks it out and you actually get ribbons. I was not great at the science. I remember in third grade, I believe, I made a volcano out of paper mache and chicken wire and like with this baking soda and food coloring. And I did some research on volcanoes and stuff like that, but really it was just like, and the thing is, it's such an easy thing. They've seen that 1,000 times. I got a participation ribbon.
See, I always wanted to make the volcano thing because you always saw it on TV, and my school, like, no, you ain't doing that. They ain't giving you that much responsibility.
So you guys don't have science fairs. That's wild. Yeah, that's like a staple.
See, people in England don't really give a crap about what kids are doing at any time or moment.
Do you typically do like projects like weird like melds of like science and art where you have to like recently I just had to help my daughter do an entire like diorama of a meteorite, a comet, and an asteroid.
Whoa. Okay, that's a bit more
and
advanced.
Like she built it out of this like putty stuff and then painted it, and then like we like made this like cardboard box and painted it black and put stars in it, and then like had like a little earth in there, and like you could kind of look. It was like it was very.
I wish we got to do that, but like maybe had we got to do that, I would have overcome my like science deficiency.
Where it fell through for you, Niall.
Same here.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah.
Everything we did was all theory based. There was never anything fun like that.
I've got a photo of it that I'll send you guys. It turned out really, really well. She did 90% of the work. Like I just helped her with some of the tools. She did all the painting, all of the everything.
See, here they just want kids to just sit down and shut up. Like, don't do anything. Don't say anything.
Read your textbook, and then do this exam.
Yeah, that's it.
I think I remember the other thing they always show you on TV is like, oh, you get them to dissect a frog and stuff. And it's like, so when I was a kid, it's like, when's this gonna happen?
Yeah,
never
we didn't do that.
Never given an animal to
I've
dissect.
dissected frogs. I've dissected earthworms. I dissected a cat, a fetal pig.
Oh my god!
A fetal pig? What? Ew.
A fetal pig.
See, the most we got to see was maybe a diagram in a book.
Huh. Yeah, apparently science is more hands-on here.
Well, again, now I wish, like, if I had got access to all this stuff, who knows what I could have accomplished with my mad scientist dreams. But, yeah, now it's...
Maybe that's why none of the geniuses at this school are from England.
That's clearly what it is.
We don't have any science geniuses here.
We didn't invent, like, loads of stuff.
I mean, you had a little bit good of a run back in, like, the 1200s, but,
something like that.
Since
I think
then,
we had a good run up until the
much.
mid-20th century.
And currently now England's just like, give us that vaccine, pump it into everyone. And all these other countries are like, well, check your work for a minute. It's like, no, we don't have the time. Just pump it into everyone.
Just do it. Give us the vaccine. No, you guys had Turing. He was good. I liked him.
We mentioned Short Circuit earlier. This movie, there were a few at the time, weren't there, of these kind of science, comedy, rom-com-y kind of movies, right? Where do you think this one?
Stuff.
Yeah. I guess that would be in there. Weird Science.
Yeah.
Also 85. I would put Ghostbusters in there. Year before this.
It was like William Atherton coming directly off Ghostbusters. So like to me, that's like what a friggin' duo of a double bill of movies to make. Like two full-blown classics in my opinion. But
maybe the run goes all the way up to kind of like Flatliners in 1990. But where do you guys put this in the pantheon of your science comedies?
I'd definitely put it in the upper sort of section. I mean, it's no Ghostbusters.
I think it's up there with Ghostbusters.
No.
Like, not better than Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters is, you can't ever make better Ghostbusters as they've shown.
Ghostbusters is like a 12 out of 10. You know?
Yeah.
But I think Real Genius is up there in the upper echelon easily.
Again, I'd put Short Circuit above it, and I'd put Weird Science above it as well.
Does it hold up, Weird Science? I haven't seen it for a long, long time.
I think so.
It's more weird than science.
I think Weird Science nowadays, like, for the most part, Real Genius, I think, is dated quite well. Like, there's very few things where you'd be like, oh, you couldn't do that nowadays. Whereas Weird Science, most of it's just like, don't know about this.
Yeah, there's no weird, like for this being a sort of like a marginalized community, there's no like weird, there's like, Kent's kind of like the angry, like not quite, he's smart, but he's not quite smart enough to hang with these guys, like jealousy type thing. But he's really like the biggest negative force in here, aside from like the man and the establishment. And, children being used to make weapons.
I'd actually say with Kent, they're mining him now in the Marvel universe, I think. Because I think a lot of the current Spider-Man run has a Real Genius vibe to me. And then the fact that with that, they went, Flash Thompson, instead of being like a jock asshole, he's kind of like Kent, basically. Like, he's a rival nerd to Peter Parker, and he just constantly tries to belittle him and pick on him and stuff. but it's just because he just feels like he's like a threat and stuff. I enjoy that relationship, even though one of those things where Kent seems to be way, way older than everyone else in the cast to me.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
But-
He does. Now, Weird Science has, of course, Kelly LeBrock, I believe, and that's common. Obviously, if you ever see the movie poster for Weird Science, she's quite prominent.
Yeah.
In that's their big selling
I wonder
point.
why.
Well, indeed, this movie doesn't really have an equivalent in my book, and here's a
Which
question
I
for
think
you.
gives it absolute validity.
Well, no,
for sure.
true. But here's my question to you: would the character of Jordan Cochran have been better off played by Phoebe Cates?
Oh.
They're very similar in profile, but I don't think Phoebe would have the energy that Jordan has.
I agree.
It's difficult to imagine Phoebe Cates doing, because it's a very distinctive performance that's going on with Jordan. So, but the thing is that we've never seen Phoebe Cates have stretched like that in that direction. So who's to say that she couldn't do it? Really?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
She pulls off a bob pretty well.
She's amazing. And also that ties it to Weird Science in a way, because don't they both kind of have underage relationships as key parts of the plot?
It's very focused on Mitch in this movie. Is just like, he's supposed to be 14 or 15 or something.
15.
It's like
15, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff where it's just like, this kid's getting like that woman who comes.
Yeah, that was like a legit sex crime.
Yeah, that's proper. Like the sequel to Real Genius would be him going like, I think I'm holding repressed trauma from that time. I
Sure, yeah, it's like a grown ass woman came and tried to have sex with me while I was 15, and then turned her down. So that's pretty awesome.
That's
on
very
his
mature.
part.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the fact he does handle it very, very maturely. I'm just like, you know what, I've got this temptation, but I ain't going for it. I'm not going to do it. But
Yeah.
He did better than I would have.
But I think I'm bringing up Weird Science again. I think that because the one of the reasons that movie doesn't really like stick the way it did back in the 80s is because Kelly LeBrock is such like this hyper sexualized male gaze fantasy of like, this is like literally the most perfect woman these two nerdy teen boys can come up with.
Yeah.
And whereas Jordan's like, she's just like her intellect is what's really driving her. That's what makes her really awesome, is that she's so smart and so weird, but still finds common ground with like, Mitch's
But
character.
remember as well, though, Kelly LeBrock's character, she is all of those things. But ultimately, they discover that isn't what they want.
yeah.
So that's quite a good message.
There's a
in
little
way.
bit of a lesson in there.
I should also mention though, and I think this might have a lot to do with my affection for Real Genius. Is like when I saw this as a kid, Jordan, played by Michelle Meyerink, was like one of my first big crushes.
Oh, I get
This
that
was like
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a real thing. It was her. Weirdly enough, also Willow from Buffy, who's got a similar kind of thing going on.
I feel like you have a type, Niall.
Yeah.
Me and
I think
Niall
I-
have the same type, I think. 'cause-
Extremely smart, socially awkward,
It's an aggressive bob.
can rock some bangs if they need to.
She's got an aggressive bob. I mean, it's
yeah.
She does.
Boy,
It looks like it's got that vibe of like she cuts her own hair kind of thing. Like that's
Yeah.
like, oh,
She probably does. She probably has a device to do it.
well,
Yeah,
she says
yeah.
she never sleeps, so that's probably what she's doing at 4 a.m.
Of course, yeah. But like, should also know as well, because before even I knew what crushes were and stuff, I used to really be into Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, and a character in that my favorite character in that was Gadget, who was like the girl Rescue Ranger. It's discovered in recent years that character is based on Jordan in Real Genius. So
Oh.
got a type. That's fitting the type, Niall.
That makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. And it explains why you're a furry.
Just talking about like some of these these actors didn't go on too much, like Michelle Meyerink, because she's in Valley Girl as well, and she's also in a movie. What was it called? It's one of those ones where like when you hear the pitch, it's like that sounds like that's gonna be friggin' amazing, and it turned out to be not that good a movie. It was a thing with
But she was in Revenge of the Nerds too.
oh yeah, Revenge of the Nerds. She was in the thing with Keanu Reeves. That was Permanent Record. That's right. Yeah, it was always
What's
It's the thing is like
What's
it's
that
a
one?
really dark drama. It's Keanu when he's in his like My Own Private Idaho, credible indie actor, even though he
Right.
was never a good actor.
Right.
But that stage where people are like, oh, this guy's like he's like an indie movie guy before they figured out who Keanu Reeves actually was. But it's got like Pamela Ridley, who of course is Teresa Banks in friggin' Fire Walk with Me, and it's got Jennifer Rubin, who is Taryn in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the best character in the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And then the John, this will get you, friggin' entire soundtrack was written and performed by Joe Strummer.
Whoa, what?
Yeah. And so you think from the outset, it's like, that sounds like that's a pretty
Wait,
amazing movie.
it's got Lou Reed in it as
Wait,
himself.
what's it called?
Permanent Record.
How do I not know about this? I'm like one of the biggest Joe Strummer fans there is.
I think the answer is that
It's crap.
it sounds like it's going to be great, and then you watch it and it's like, oh, yeah, it's not that good.
Yeah, but I've seen that crappy movie he did with Shane McGowan. They were both acting in a film.
Well, I guess maybe if Joe Strummer acted in it, if he replaced Keanu Reeves, maybe he might have a bit more cultural cachet. But yeah, it seems to have fallen through the friggin' cracks. But,
Oh, well, I know what I'm watching.
but that was Michelle Meyrank's last movie. She retired after that. She must have been like, what, friggin' 25 or something.
Oh,
but
bliss.
now she's
Yeah,
all
it's like 88 when that came out, so she was pretty young.
She went into a life of Zen Buddhism. I don't know if it's from she was just too into Jordan. She just needed to calm the hell down. But like now she's all into like serenity, and she appears occasionally in documentaries about Buddhism and stuff. But yeah, that was where she went. One of the other people actually have to mention this because I found this one. I was like, what? Is the guy what's his name, Milton, the guy who grows the giant cherry.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that guy's played by Dean Devlin, who was the writer of Independence Day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember when I seen the name pop up because, like, back in the day, obviously I was like 9 when Independence Day came out, so I freaking had tons of Independence Day merch. And I remember the cover of the novelization had like a film by Roland Emmerich, written, based on a script written by Dean Devlin. So I always knew that name stuck in my head.
That's
So
why.
I saw it every freaking day. And then years later, been like, the Dean Devlin? I was like, yeah, that guy went from real genius to like writing that and like Godzilla and crap like that.
Oh, well,
But-
remember,
Wow.
right? We might mock Godzilla now, but remember how big that film was.
He wrote Universal Soldier as well.
The first
that's
one.
a good movie, that one. Yeah, that's a good one. I have to rewatch that one. I haven't watched that for years.
This guy is a real genius.
Hey,
Stargate, Godzilla, yeah.
He's the
good
real
stuff.
genius of the title. In fact, we haven't actually said about the basics of the plot for people who haven't watched it. As in,
Oh, yeah.
so they meet the kid at the science fair and they go, you know what, you're super smart, you're going to go to college. So he goes to college and he gets paired up with another genius. There you go. Boom. You're caught up.
Real genius.
Real
And then, yeah,
genius.
they're bent over backwards to create this laser. They don't know what it's for, even though you think people this intelligent, when tasked with building a giant laser, would be like, oh, what is this?
You know
for?
what? No, I disagree. I think that people that are this hyper smart focus so much on the minutia of the problem
Yes.
in front of them, they don't look at the big picture.
That's the thing.
So they're not like, yeah, we built a giant laser. That's our goal. This is what we do. This is what we have to do. This is in order to graduate, get tenure, whatever it is, just to move on. So they're very, very easily could tunnel vision themselves into not realizing what they're doing, just doing it for the sake of just to
Well,
do
to
it.
them, what it is and what it does is kind of irrelevant. It's the doing that they care about.
It's
Yeah.
the Jurassic Park. You were focused so much on whether you could, you didn't stop to think if you should.
And I mean, if they do touch on that later after they've successfully gotten the power yield that they need and the laser, and they're like, it's not for us to decide. It's let the engineers figure it out. They're like, we've just solved the problem.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Because
Move
that's all they
on.
were asked to do. Like, can you use your incredible brain to do this thing? Yeah, sure. There you go. It's done. And they do, of course, have an incredible brain to turn the whole dorm into an amazing party town. It's so of the time. It's like, whoa, it's radical.
Was that basically the end of the plot summary, John? Because is there any more?
No, we're going to jump around.
That was it.
We're going to get there. We're not at that point yet.
I thought that was it. No, I wasn't sure what else you were going to say because isn't that the entirety of the plot?
Well, we get there's a lot of character stuff. Like Val comes out with some amazing lines in this movie, and you mentioned he had the thing on his head, and someone says, why is that toy on your head? And he's like, if I wear it anywhere else, it chafes. That's genius.
It's like, I didn't want you guys to think I was all mine, no penis.
yeah.
Basically, every line he comes out with is just, it's incredible.
Again, very, very Tony Stark to me.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing the Robert Downey Jr. quips. Yep. It makes you want to, wonder if, like, when he worked with Robert Downey on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, he's like, I always enjoyed your shtick in Real Genius. Much like you kind of wonder when, like, friggin' he was working with Jim Carrey Was Jim Carrey ever like, oh, yeah, or was Val ever like, I played like a mad scientist type at one point,
It's like, you won't believe it to look at me, but I played a bit of a crazy guy at some point in my time.
Another one of my favorite things he comes out with is when he says he's talking about the woman. I don't remember her name. The character, the blonde woman. She's like a secretary or something.
Sherry.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, have you ever seen a body like this before in your life? And the guy he's with
that
is
was
like,
that was what's her face, the daughter.
Yeah, and he's like, she happens to be my daughter. He's like, oh, then I guess you have.
But she gets the great line. He's like, hey, he's just like, can you hammer a 6-inch spike through a board with your penis?
Not right now.
He goes, not right now. And she goes, the girl's got to have her standards. I mean, there's really good writing in this movie.
Yeah, there's some great lines, all of them.
It's like the great moment too, where they're kind of making fun of Kent, who deserves to be made fun of because he's a complete asshole. At one point, they're like, "Oh, we found Kent naked with a bowl of Jell-O," and it's just like, "I was hot and I was hungry." Okay.
I love how first he denies it, then he completely owns
He's like,
it.
well, yeah, it did happen, but not that way.
Or Atherton's bit where he like the first time he comes up, he's like, "Hey, you're laborers. You should be laboring." That's a good bit. And he goes like, "This is what you get when you don't have an education." And just like that stupid like West Coast elitist like bullshit. It was just a funny
That one's
line.
quite funny now as well, because I don't know if it's the same there, but over here, labourers are quite well off these days, I find, like builders and stuff, because their skills are quite in demand, because a lot of people don't do that work anymore, and a lot of them will start their own company. So quite a lot of builders and stuff I've known have been not like rich, but they've been doing good.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like over here, historically, like stuff like that, construction, it does pay really well.
So that just shows how bigoted he is. He's like, it's not even about the money.
It reminds me that there's an episode of Frasier actually where the toilet's broken, so they get in a guy, a plumber, to come in and fix the toilet. And it's played by John C. McGinley, like friggin' Dr. Cox from Scrubs. And Frasier recognizes, like, that's the guy who used to bully me in school. And like they're trying to, like, what should I try? Mention it to him and all this kind of thing.
No.
And they're kind of really belittling him. It's like, all he is a plumber now. He's such a failure in life, Frasier. Like, I mean, Nas is like, take the higher ground. You've got the better life. Like, he's just a plumber. And then Frasier finds out, like, oh, plumbers actually get paid quite well these days. And he's like, oh, yeah, he has a better car than Fraser. He's got a better house. Not only that, he's got like a family. All
He's doing great.
So he can't even hide in the old, like, oh, well, the best revenge is living well. It's like, no, not this time.
I like the bit where Chris comes in to the lab and he's got like some goo in a pot, in a beaker, and he gives it to the kid. He's like, here, taste this. Is it too sweet? And he's like, taste it. And he goes, what is it? He says, and he goes like, I don't know, I just found it lying around the lab. He's like, what the hell? He's like, nah, it's yogurt, it's fine.
That's the best bit. When it reminded me of, is it Notting Hill, where the comedic side guy's like, he's like, this yogurt tastes funny. And then they're like, that's mayonnaise. He's like, oh, right, that'll be it then. And he carries on eating it.
I gotta say, I'm a noted fan of rom-coms. I watched Notting Hill for the first time recently, and I did not care for it.
Really?
I couldn't make it to the end. I got so bored.
What?
I think the only good part of that movie is Reese fans as the little slummy.
That's who it is. Yeah,
roommate.
yeah.
The roommate, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only good part of that movie.
What's happened to him? He used to be a big deal.
There's a bit in it that infuriates me, where Julia Roberts comes around. They're having like a little dinner with all their friends and stuff. And they have this game of like whoever the person to get the last brownie, whoever's got the worst life going at the minute. And one of their friends has just recently discovered they can't have children, and they're in a wheelchair. They, due to this accident, they're in a wheelchair and they can't have kids. And this is a real sad moment. And then they're like, they start making fun of Hugh Grant. They're like, oh, look at this haggard old looks. It doesn't look as good as it used to. That business, which you see seems to be doing perfectly okay for itself. He's like, oh, that's going down the tube. He's got nothing going in his life. And it's like he's sitting there dating a movie star. Like, that's his story at this moment. And they're like, yeah, he's clearly the saddest sack. Give him the brownie. And it's like, what? What the hell is going on? And there's just there's no charm to Julia Roberts. There's no chemistry between them. They don't even play the Ronan Keating song all that much. And it's like, I was sitting waiting for that at least. And it's like, no, there's nothing to it. It's like, I couldn't believe how bad it was. But,
well, yeah, since you're Irish, I mean, of course you were looking forward to that. Nobody else was.
You're the only one not.
It was the only thing I knew about the movie. Is like, oh yeah, Julia Roberts, Hugh Grant. It's got you say it best. Like that plays at some point.
When you say nothing at all.
I don't like in that movie how when she bad mouths him when she's on the set when he's listening in, she doesn't know he's listening in on the headset, and she kind of slags him off and badmouths him, and he kind of walks off. But and so that, to me, that should have been it. That should be, he should have just been like, oh, F you.
Yeah.
But she gets a second chance, doesn't she? Just because she's a rich famous movie star, and it's like, no, it shouldn't.
It's a rom-com. You always get a stupid second chance.
Didn't
you don't
deserve that. Yeah, she didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
You should have just told her to get lost.
But anyway, this isn't Notting Hill, man.
No.
Thank God.
Some other stuff I love. I just call everyone their actor's name. Val. Some other stuff I love that he does as well. He slices liquid nitrogen that's been frozen to make coins, so he can basically steal food and drink, which is one of the greatest things I've seen in a film of all ever.
Like, what do you do with that intellect if you don't use it to profit or benefit
Exactly.
yourself?
That's what's fun, I think, about his character is he's so smart, but it's not annoying. It's like, oh, that's what I would do if I was a genius.
And I like the fact that they utilize that moment to sort of like set up the aha moment later on after he has his the laser blows up.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they had a valid, real reason, not just like, oh, I have a tube of liquid nitrogen in the freezer, like you do. They legitimately had a setup, delivered, and then like it actually had payoff down the road. That's a great writing.
I get
moment.
the impression like this isn't the first time he's done this. He does this every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He has a process. He even asked Mitch, it's like, you want some coffee?
I will say they do a good job of making Chris. He could have come across as the most obnoxious, unlikable prick in the world, but they do keep themselves on the wire very carefully there, because they even have little things like, there is jealousy in Kent where he's like, this the new kid. This is the new wonder kid who comes in. And then he says to Chris, like, this is the guy who's going to take over from you, as if that's going to set Chris off. And Chris is just like, oh, well, you might be smarter than me, but can you do this? And he just starts doing a handstand. And it just becomes apparent, like, he doesn't care if Mitch is smarter than him or not.
Ken even throws out, like, this is the guy that, like, beat your scores by 20 points. And he's like, okay.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's no ego in him. I think that's what makes him likable, is he is a genuinely nice guy who also is, like, really smart.
Yeah, and he gets on with Mitch quite quickly as well. The two of them get along pretty fast. They have different approaches, but a sort of similar curiosity. They bring out the best in each other, really, don't they? Because Mitch needs to lighten up, and then he needs to kind of maybe buckle down a little bit.
So I was gonna ask a question, but then it made me think. Well, let's just get into the plot as you described it, John, earlier, a little bit more, because I've got various questions. I mean,
Sure, Neil.
Professor Hathaway, right? What is he doing? What is his plan? His plan seems to be the following, right? Fake some tech, get a government contract to build a device based on this non-existent tech, siphon off cash to fund the building of his house, and just get some kids from university or college or high school to hopefully come up with the tech in the meantime. How did he think this was ever going to end well for him?
To be honest, it almost does end well. And actually, I
he
don't
gets
care.
what he wants.
I don't care about talking about the very end, right? We'll jump around. Who cares? The very, very end. This is the only thing sort of I really didn't like, was the way the movie just stopped. They pull their prank with the popcorn. The movie ends. But it feels like it shouldn't end here. I want more. And surely the project is still going ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, like, they got the revenge on Jerry, but then the government still owns that weapon.
Yeah.
So it's like, unless you designed it to, like, oh, we rigged it so it blows up after that one use or something.
It seems very high risk plan for him, for Hathaway.
Well, so his process is like, he basically, like, he didn't come up with the idea. They said, we need the best laser scientists in the country. There's this guy at this California Institute. We're going to do this, not Caltech. So they go to him. He says, okay, I can do this. Pay me a lot of money. And then he takes all the money for, like, a lot of the money for the project and, like, siphons it off and spends it on his own thing. That's why the guy at one point is like, you do know when they cancel a contract, they do a project, like an audit. So nice remodeling on your house there, bud. This is your ass is on the line for more than just had he not done it, the project been canceled. They're like, okay, well, but he is on the line for criminal charges because he's been like stealing from the coffers.
That would have been the case even if none of the kind of hijinks or had happened, right? If he'd have just delivered the project on time, even under the government's accelerated time frame, they would have at some point figured out what he'd spent.
No, they
this
wouldn't
money
have given
on.
a shit. That's the government. They're like, oh, you deliver, we don't care, as long like whatever money. This is pocket change for us. We don't give a shit that you built your house.
The whole thing
as
is
long
like
as you deliver.
Like the idea of like some snooty like elitist guy siphoning off money that's designed to go elsewhere and using the labors of others to benefit himself and not caring about the actual benefit, the thing that is supposed to be. Like, there's so many things happening in our modern world that are kind of similar to that anyway, to me.
Yeah,
that are like,
it's also a very 80s, like they're locking him in as A, the bad guy, and B, he's basically like put himself behind the, under the gun. He's got to get this to work.
And he brought in Mitch to what? Just to give Val Kilmer a kick up the arse?
No, the project had stalled, and so they brought in Mitch to sort of like kickstart the project because he had ideas and theories that were like right where he needed them to be. And he's like, well, my guys are kind of like, shit in the bed on this, so we need to get Mitch in here to fresh blood, new eyes, and that.
Yeah, and he's come up with this like revolutionary sort of laser technology at the start, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's like the first time he gets near the laser, he's instantly going, "Have you checked this and stuff?"
I
And
mean,
they're
he
like,
is
"Whoa."
good, isn't he? I mean, he is good. That is one good decision from Professor Hathaway. But
he's a good guy.
Am I also right in saying Professor Hathaway has his own TV show?
Yeah,
That's weird. That's weird. These days, you could make
Yeah.
that a YouTube channel and that'd be fine. But it's a TV show.
I do love he's so, because the fashions in the whole movie are so intensely 80s, but like Jerry's whole wardrobe is like it's constantly sweaters about the shoulder and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then for some reason Kent keeps showing up and like even worse variations of the outfits that Jerry wears, as if he just
short sleeve shirts and Dickies.
Yeah. Well, Kent wants to be him, doesn't he, basically?
Yeah, but he shows up. He's short sleeve shirt, and then it seems like he's got like a turtleneck on underneath it, so he's got that up to his chin.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's just like the horrible blonde hair and the big thick specs and stuff, and it's
And the
just like,
braces on his teeth.
yeah. Again, apparently this was all studied as like, this is what people at Caltech. I think the costume designer at one point said like, did these people all get dressed in the dark or something? Like, why have they got such hideous taste in fashion?
Well, that's why they're
like,
amazed that when they have the big party, the pool party. Not only are there ladies there, but they are very, very good-looking ladies. They are beauticians. Oh no, sorry, no, they're not. One of my other favorite lines comes there when they're like, "Being snubbed by beauticians is not my idea of relaxing," and then Val goes, "Student beauticians." It's like, get it right, come on.
I will say that scene also made me feel, again, for Mitch, because his whole thing is like, all right, you're at this absolutely raucous party. And it's like, oh, the world's your oyster. And then he kind of ends up sitting awkwardly, not knowing what to do. That's me. That's what I've been at parties, not exactly like this one, but similar enough. Where
He has
I would
that
be
great line later when Chris is like, I just wanted you to calm down and relax. He's like, being snubbed by beauticians is not my idea of relaxing.
That's the one scene as well, though, where I don't think they would put it in a movie today. It was the one bit where I was like, this would be a thing that they would snip out. Where Jordan comes in to test her like rebreather apparatus or whatever, and Mitch says something to her, and she's just like, he's like, oh, why aren't you? And he's just like, why aren't I ogling? I'm not gay. Like she's very defensively,
Oh,
like as
that's
if she's
it. Yeah, I've written the line down because I loved it. Hang on, necking. That's it. He's like,
Yeah.
how come you're not
necking is just a term for
necking?
making. It's just a term for
I'm
making
not
out.
gay.
You could take it as like, oh, that's a case of like the not gays. Like, oh, why do people keep thinking I'm gay? Or it could just be that people are constantly assuming that she's a lesbian, and she's just like, for God, I'm not.
I thought it was just a spur of the moment thing because it's almost like he's like, well, why aren't you up there with the rest of us kissing these girls?
I thought it had an air of defensive-ness about it to me.
Yeah.
But like,
Well, yeah, I believe she might. Well, she's also odd, and she does say that like later on. She's like, I'm hyperkinetic, and I like basically ADHD now is what it would be diagnosed as. And it's like she doesn't sleep. She's super high energy, and like most guys can't hang. And then Mitch is like, no, I'm into it.
yeah.
And that's a moment for them. But her initial thing is like, I think because she doesn't have a boyfriend ever, because no guys can hang with her, that she's like, she gets
smart.
assumed all the time. Like,
too smart.
Are you gay?
She's smarter than all the boys. That's the problem,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. Although again,
Not-
with
not
Jordan,
too
it's like, because she does mention like, oh yeah, I'm 19, I'm hyperkinetic. So nowadays you're also going like, this kid's 15 though. It's like, I know it's only 4
It's
years,
weird,
but it's at a
though.
it's at a weird time where it's like there's a barrier there, and you guys are on both sides.
That
of it.
reminded
It's like-
me of the English film. Well, This Is England. The way, what's the main character's name? Sean.
Sean.
The way he kisses Smell, as she's called, because she's like a good bit older than him, and you're like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're coming into like the sexual double standard of like if it were a 19-year-old guy and a 15-year-old girl, it'd be like, oh, she's underage. But for some reason, it's okay for a 19-year-old woman to kiss a 15-year-old boy, and there's like not that like same set of like social mores coming into
It
play.
shouldn't be the case, but for some reason in people's minds, that's not as strange, is it?
Well, it's like two guys who are into each other. Oh, you're gay. Like, oh, but like two girls, like, oh, they're just making out.
Yeah.
There's a definite sexual double standard when it comes to same-sex relationships or like alternating like age
Definitely.
ranges.
Yeah. Which is a shame.
George, have you seen This Is England, George?
I have
Oh,
not.
you need to watch.
Do you like Shane Meadows and his stuff?
I don't even know who Shane Meadows is.
I was contemplating doing a This
George.
Is England minute.
You should get onto. Well, guys, how would you describe Shane Meadows' oeuvre?
It's sort of kitchen sink realism, but with an intense hint of violence in there as well. Like it's very good, but it's never like most British filmmakers. It's not like a laugh a lot of the
No,
time. Like,
This Is
it's-
England can be funny,
Can be,
but then it goes
can also
down a
be-
dark place where people are being beaten up by racist skinheads and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It's like it starts off great fun, and then it really descends then at the end where it's like, oh my god. And
Which
it's kind
one?
of like they did with the TV. They had a spin-off TV show, and every season was like, you get 4 episodes, 2 of them will be funny, and the next 2 are gonna be horrible. It's like, okay,
Someone will be
Which, uh,
murdered. And, yeah.
Which one? Which movie should George watch? Which Shane Meadows?
This is
I
England.
That one? Yeah, okay.
I'd say Dead
I
Man
like-
Shoes.
I like Dead Man's Shoes. I was going to say
I'm a
Dead
This
Man's
Is England
Shoes.
person. I think that's his masterpiece. I think it's one of the best British movies ever. It's got cool music and everything.
Yeah.
There you go,
I think
George.
Dead Man's Shoes is more like it's an easy, because it's basically like a vigilante revenge tale, so it's an easy get. Like
Yeah.
there's no, you don't have to like understand the culture or anything. It's just like,
But
you're
it's
like,
so
oh,
good
this-
though.
Yeah.
There you go, George. A couple for your watch list.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep an eye
I
out
think
for
you
it.
might like him.
I've never even seen it like streaming anywhere before.
No, you might have to go and find that one.
It's where it's basically where Paddy Considine came. Paddy Considine's the main character in it, and when that came out over here, it was like, this guy is a star, basically. Like, and since then he's been like, oh, reputable, massive actor, Paddy Considine.
He's great.
Back in this movie, the
Indeed.
other sort of team members make fun of our hero here. I'm going to call him our hero, even though he's not, because he
Wait,
called
Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch.
Or-
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the joke. Like Mitch is technically our hero, but is he? Is he? They make fun of him for calling home. Because he's like, oh, they're being nasty, they're bullying me. I want to go home.
Oh,
Mum,
yeah.
come and get me. But like, he's 15.
Yeah.
Leave the kid alone. He's
Well, that just shows like how like lacking in empathy that Kent is, because he's more about he might be like one of those people that now would be kind of termed as like on the spectrum,
Yeah.
because he does have zero empathy.
absolutely like that's. I know it's one. People fall out and make fun of each other and have arguments, but it's like this is an actual kid. Like,
Yeah.
Don't mock him. Come on, you're a grown man at this point.
But he is like Kent's just a very petty, jealous guy, and he's the one. Like
Yeah.
when he pulls the prank, there's a couple of minor laughs amongst his friends, but some of them look very uncomfortable with it. And Kent's the only
Yeah,
one
the
really
only people
going,
that really enjoy it are the people that actually perpetrated the prank. No one else is like, you're kind of a dick.
Yeah. But the weird thing is, with Kent, though, I feel his arc at the end is underdone to me, because it feels as if he's supposed to be like converted at the end in some way.
Yeah.
Because he goes through the whole business with like where they do the radio waves through his teeth. And they do basically like a Rod Todd, this is God.
Yeah, can I just
thing
say
from
that's one of the things I was going to bring up as a problem. I don't like that whole thing where they keep speaking to him pretending they're God. It goes a bit too silly. Like one time, fine, but they keep doing
Yeah,
it.
do it once. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I thought I've never once questioned it. I always thought it played. It was like, okay, yeah, sure. I like the bit when they're kind of installing. It's like his braces will make a perfect antenna, and then his head will make a speaker, and then it goes like, well, at least it's useful for something.
Well, yeah,
finally.
but that's
Or
funny
something like that.
once.
It's just like a great little
But they
throwaway
keep
line.
doing it, and he keeps accepting that. Yeah, okay, it's God. It's like, okay.
Is it because they had to? Because at the end, when he's standing in front of the giant popcorn maker thing,
Yeah.
and he sees the light coming through the window, the laser, and he's having his own God moment, isn't he?
I do like
you
that
think
bit,
that?
yeah.
Do you think it's because they had to kind of establish the whole God talking to him thing a bit more in order for people to buy that?
Yeah, to why he's like standing in awe, staring at this
Yeah.
window.
I also think that Kent is a soul that is constantly in search of something bigger than him in order to justify. Because he's not like he doesn't have a like. That's why he like sucks up to like Atherton. I can't blame him.
Hathaway. Yeah,
Hathaway, yeah, he's constantly sucking up to him because he is his authority figure.
He's a follower.
Constantly looking for an
Yeah,
authority.
he's just a
he
follower,
is. He
right?
does not have any sort of like self-actualization.
Yeah.
So when he is now being talked to directly by God, that fuels his self-actualization and his ego. He's like, God's talking to me? What?
yeah.
Because they make the reference earlier where it goes like, oh, actually, so it's God, Jerry,
Right.
Kent to the cleaners, that sort of like, trickle down joke. And now it's like he's jumping Jerry and talking directly to God.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't make that connection.
Or Jesus.
It's weird though to me at the end though, because he's standing there and he's in all like for people who don't know, basically they reroute the satellite laser to shoot into Jerry's house where they have placed a giant thing of popcorn. So and Jerry hates popcorn. They put a Chekhov's popcorn thing earlier in the movie.
I made a note about that. I was like, Niall will be happy because you also hate popcorn.
Yes, I do also hate popcorn. But although to be fair, what happens to Kent looks a lot of fun to me, to be honest with you.
Oh,
But,
okay.
the thing is that he's standing there and then no panic when this laser comes friggin' in through the window. He doesn't freak out or anything. And then they fill up the whole house with popcorn, and it comes erupting out the door, and they're all panicking. Oh no, Kent, what have we done? And then afterwards, he seems to get on with everyone kind of pretty well.
Yeah.
Like they all seem to be friends.
He just
now.
had a near-death
Yeah.
like religious experience.
He's all right. That Kent, arm around the shoulder.
No.
Yeah, but it's just so because there's no point, there's no apologies. And it's not. It seems it's more he's just like because he's so not panicked by the popcorn. He's just like, this is great. Like he thinks it's a genuinely fun thing instead of like anyone else would probably freak out if they're getting drowned in popcorn. But he's like, this is fantastic. And it comes out, and then it's just like, okay, hey everybody. Oh, guess we're friends now. It's like
There's a great character.
it's very strange to
There's
me.
a great character in that bit as well, just before the laser fires, who I didn't note his name down, but he's wearing the same slippers as.
Oh yeah,
the dean. Yeah, the dean, the head of the
He's
college.
like, let me take this opportunity to compliment you on your fashion sense, particularly your slippers.
Yeah.
He's a god.
He had that bit in the very beginning where he goes like, let me offer you some
That's him.
advice. And he goes like, never always remember to check your references. With the whole bit about like, I think kids enjoy it when I get down verbally, don't you think?
I had two things about him that I liked as well. First off, I was like, you know what? I wish this guy was played by Werner Herzog. He had a vibe of him to me. And then the very next thing I thought when he spoke again, I was like, oh, wait, no. He sounds like, Niall will know what I'm talking about. Oh, the French champagne.
Because the thing is that the dean seems like a kind of benign character. You kind of think because Jerry's running things in this college, kind of, that everyone involved must be an asshole. But the dean seems like a genuinely sort of nice guy, but
Yeah.
he just doesn't seem to really know what's going on in his own university.
He's not your typical dean, like, going, oh, I'm going to get you.
If TV has taught me anything, it's a crusty, bitter old dean.
Yeah.
He also looks
always.
like Richard Attenborough.
yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
What about the Laszlo Holyfeld?
Oh, Uncle
Oh,
Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
What did you make of that, Neil? It's an ongoing mystery. Did that draw you in as to what the hell this guy was up to?
No, that's
or-
my other problem with the movie, right? Number one was the ending, just ending. Number two was the God thing. And number three was Laszlo. I didn't like that. It was very unrealistic the way he not only lived in the cupboard, but in like a secret underground base. That was a bit too much.
He's got his
yeah,
own
you need
bat
a secret
games,
underground
actually.
That was
base.
too silly.
Yeah.
And then all of his bits didn't land for me. I didn't like them.
I like Laszlo, but that
Yeah,
is
I
one of
think
those
he's
ones
fun.
of like, appropriate that these two guests are here, where like that something that silly happens in it. But that to me is on par for a lot of 80s comedies. So I was like, well, it's the 80s. So
Oh,
it's
that
just,
and how many montages were in this
At least
movie?
3.
Oh, a lot.
At least
But
3
at least we got
montages.
some good music during them.
Yeah.
Oh no, and the music was fantastic.
We'll
yeah.
get-
Great
we need to talk
soundtrack.
about the soundtrack. But yeah, Laszlo didn't really work for me. He just seemed out of place.
Yeah, he felt like
and
Noel
I-
Fielding's character in the IT Crowd. The goth who just sort of lives in the
Oh yeah,
in the cupboard.
he lives in the back and no one.
I just took him to be he's a warning because like, you could end up like this burned out brain
Yeah,
fried weirdo.
he was the
like,
12-year-old they talked about. Like
yeah.
he was the one that was like the youngest, smartest guy they've ever known, but he completely burned
I
out.
would have written it
because he couldn't
different,
handle
though.
college life because he's 12.
I'd have written it like he went insane and killed himself, but that's not funny.
that's not really what you want. A lighthearted comedy we've written here.
But what does he do that another character couldn't do?
Well,
what does he bring?
He does do one thing. He helps with the test because he's memorized every single test question that has ever been set. It's all in his brain, so he can lay it all out and help him study.
And also, he's the voice of like age and reason. Who's like, by the way, this thing you've done that is like this like one-off thing. This the only thing you can do. They specifically say like the possibilities are endless, and he says like, nope. The only thing you can really do is vaporize a human being from space with this.
That is true. I think that is you've hit the nail on the head there, George. That's the one thing he does that no one else has seen is the practical application of the tech.
Because he's the one that ran into the problem when he was younger. Like he cracked because he was told that the stuff he was doing for the school was killing people.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. That makes sense. Is cracking at least. Living in a secret lab is stupid, but the rest of it, yeah. Okay.
See, a lot of, I think I like them as well because there's a lot of this actually struck me as kind of weirdly realistic, like how insanely dirty the dorms, as you call them in America. They're like, but the thing is, I look at this, I was like, yeah, I lived in university halls. They look like that, yeah.
Yep.
And then the fact that this weirdo character is like, yeah, there's this guy who just comes in and he just goes into his little area and no one knows who he is. No one ever really talks
I
to
knew
him.
someone like that.
Yeah, we had a girl like that. So it's like, oh, who is that girl? She always seemed to, that first year of university, perpetually had a broken arm. Nobody knew what it was. But then the thing is, what they learned from Chris Knight, because he's a genuinely nice guy, Mitch is just like, who is this weirdo? I can't figure it out. I'm so curious about him. And then Chris is just like, when he's like, yeah, I met him. And I was like, what did you do? He's like, well, I talked to him. So eventually, the realization there, Ben's like, yeah, you get local eccentrics, but you just have to talk to them, find out what the deal is. You don't have to, other them. You can just talk to them like people and stuff. And then through the power of friendship, they all kind of bring Laszlo out of his shell. And apparently his scheme as well, this thing he's doing with like, the sweepstakes
I didn't get
thing,
that until the very, very end.
Apparently that also happened. That was a thing that guys did in real life as well, where
They only won 20% of the prizes. It was like in the 70s, and it was for McDonald's or something. But like that actually happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do love that bit with him though, where he's like, "I'm getting married," and they're like, "To whom?" Like, yeah, how have you ever even met a woman? What's going on?
And it's the girl that tried to seduce Mitch.
Yeah, because she's trying to bag like all the smartest people in
She's
the country.
working her way up the ladder. But it's just funny from their point of view. They're like, how, why, who, what? You live in a cupboard.
I love that moment in the beginning when she talks about like she's met like 8 out of the 10 or something, or 8 out of the 12, and he's like, oh, that one guy, yeah, he's dead now. She goes, he is now, as in like she f***ed him to death.
I didn't even think of that.
Like,
Yeah, that's a great so you don't get that until you're older when you watch that movie. You're like, oh, like she had a hand in that or 2 hands.
Literally.
I took that. I love that him showing up though in this random friggin' Winnebago or whatever at the end, because it's such an 80s movies way of ending too, where it's just like, hey, there's Laszlo and he's got a Hawaiian shirt on, and it's just like, okay, I'm going to Dollywood, guys.
See you,
It's like,
suckers.
everywhere you wanna dance to. You're just expecting everyone's partying now in the street.
With the fire hydrants are burst open, spraying people.
Yeah, it's just like, where'd you get that drink? It's a party, Marge. Doesn't have to make sense.
Now, John, you mentioned you don't like the ending of this movie.
What's too
and
quick?
Yeah, it does kind of. The feels like there might have been a bit more, but what I did like is how they actually did it from a movie making perspective, and it was a bit like how then Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The audio kind of cuts out, but the movie's still rolling, and they have there's a mini montage at the end where you see all the good guys walking off, and then Hathaway pulls up in his car, and he obviously sees the popcorn house. But meanwhile, you got the song playing, which is cool, and you get the credits starting to come up, and I kind of like how they did that, and then it kind of fades out, and then you get the black screen and the credits roll. But I like how they kind of transition you away from the movie. They don't need to. I feel like they don't need to kind of explain Hathaway, and we don't need to hear what he's got to say about his popcorn house. He kind of just leaves it to you. And then I just like how they phase you out with the cool song.
Yeah.
Well, he's also like holding it like the handkerchief over his nose because he hates the smell of it as well as and then like the dog he's been yelling at the whole time runs up and then like I'm still here I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It's a couple of visual gags, and then and that's it. You're done.
We'll give them hats off too. Where again, this is my testament of like why I probably could never be a filmmaker, because the effort put into making this, because like, how do you fill up a house full of popcorn? You have to fill up.
Oh, they said that they had people popping popcorn for weeks for this finale.
Yeah. I think William Atherton said like, it took like three months or something in total to get every kernel.
Yeah,
and I think they got 190,000 pieces of popcorn. Is like what it took to. If that were me, I'd be like, okay, just think of a different ending, because I can't do that.
I'm surprised the studio went ahead with it, because that must have put them back off schedule massively, right?
I think it cost them.
They probably planned for it.
But that's it. Imagine agreeing to that. Imagine going, yeah, okay, you can spend 3 months popping corn.
It cost them like a bomb as well, because like that much popcorn was actually like quite expensive.
No, I like the fact that I read somewhere that like the whole plot point revolving around getting Hathaway getting his students to come up with murder weapons for the government. That was just something they pulled out of their ass. And then after the movie came out, multiple people mailed Martha Coolidge saying, that actually happened. I have made weapons for my instructors that went to the government. Like many people said that.
Wow.
That was a note I did make it too. Apparently, they did read an interview where they said because they had gone to such lengths to make sure that everything was like scientifically feasible, like in terms of like the laser, like all there's a bit where Chris Knight does a friggin' Geordie LaForge science jargon dump. Where he comes in and he's like, whoa. Yeah,
it couples to the ground state. So basically it's like lasing a stick of dynamite.
Yeah. And it's like, apparently that's all theoretically sound. It's like, oh yeah, we like you freaking like the writers of Futurama. Like, oh, we went and did the research to make sure that is airtight, what he says. But the one thing they went like, we have to do one element that's too silly is the popcorn house, and like, actually pulling that off. And the reason apparently they made it that silly is because they didn't want to inspire what they called lethal tinkering. Because they thought, well, this could inspire people to go out like friggin' Fight Club did, when they're like, well, if people go out and try to make bombs out of friggin' this, that, and the other, and try to make soap out of human fat and all that kind of crap.
I'm glad you said Geordie LaForge as well, because throughout the whole movie, I kept thinking of Mitch as like, yeah, you're like a little Wesley.
So everybody hates you.
Boy.
I'll give that. I liked Mitch much more than I like Wesley.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
He had something to him where you didn't hate him, even though he is like one of those annoying kids who's just too clever.
Even though I really don't like Sarah Jessica Parker.
Well, yes, so yeah, I like him, but he had a Wesley vibe. I think that he's too smart for his own
very
good.
Wesleyan.
Yeah.
What was your favorite song then from the soundtrack?
Oh, I was saying like I will always be a fan of Tears for Fears. So Everybody Wants to Rule the World is like, it's like that song, yes, always, but then like so many other good ones. But that's like a completely understood, like that will always get number one.
It's a good one.
That's just such a good song.
That's what they have. That's the last one, isn't it? That's where
the credits roll.
Yeah,
cool. I will say that was my pick too, and I will also say that I lived with a guy who was for a period of time obsessed with Tears for Fears, and he played the album that song from Songs from the Big Chair incessantly. And it was a really small flat, so I heard it every time he played it. And what I learned from that experience is that that's a fucking great album. Like, at no point did I ever tire of it.
It is.
It was just like everything was all like friggin' Shouts on there, Head Over Heels is on there. Got a
All the
great
good
song.
ones.
Like, got a great ballad on there called The Working Hour, which is like a masterpiece of a song. You would have thought eventually I would have been banging on his door, going, "Would you for Christ's sake turn that off?" But every time I was like turning down the TV so I could hear certain songs and stuff when he was playing it.
I haven't got a cool story, but I'd probably agree as well. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, there is.
I mean, that is like probably the biggest song on the soundtrack by far. Like,
I think
like
so.
You recognize a lot of these as like, oh, I've heard that song in a movie or on the radio or something when you were younger. Like Dawn Henley, all she wants to do is dance. You know that song.
Yeah, yeah. They don't go as heavy into like the geek songs. I would expect like Devo would have been all over this thing, but like no Devo. Like
It's
no.
quite-
Yeah, this is
It-
way
Oingo
more just like
Boingo.
80s new wave
It's quite eclectic.
soundtrack.
The soundtrack. I mean, there is a soundtrack on Spotify. It's someone's put it together. It's not kind of the actual soundtrack album. So good work, Brent Doyle. On
Well, I had to do that with
Spotify.
Ferris Bueller because they never released a soundtrack to Ferris
Yeah.
Bueller's Day Off.
So
So I
someone
had to
just
go
made
through
one.
and find all of the songs I could, like the closest approximation, and put them on one playlist because they never. And they may have done it by now because
They
you know,
should.
sure, why not?
Yeah, I think you're right, John. I think it's still not there. On this one, there's a lot of a kind of eclectic. I mean, I really like the Carmen McRae song that they in the opening credits. You took advantage of me. I think that's really nice. That's a bit different. They don't start you out with kind of hardcore 80s on that. But one thing I don't understand, Brent Doyle, pardon me, Brent, Mr. Real Genius on Spotify here. He's put Echo and the Bunnymen's The Killing Moon. I don't remember hearing that in the movie.
It's not on there. I think it's just thematically in the same vein as all
Or
the
could
others.
it be like
That's
in
what
the
he's doing.
background in like one of the dorm rooms and you only kind of half hear it?
Maybe.
It's quite a
I don't
distinctive
remember hearing
song.
Echo and the Bunnymen either, but at the same time, I'm never not okay with hearing Echo and the Bunnymen. So
This will
put
be
it
the
on.
third time today that I've talked about Echo and the Bunnymen with someone.
How bizarre.
You had a busy day, sir.
But what he's also done, Brent, he's put 4 Genesis songs and a Phil Collins song at the end
Oh,
of
I
his
can't do
list
that.
there, and I think
I would-
that's where he's lost it for me.
No,
He's lost it for me.
no, I can't do Genesis or
Too
Phil
much
Collins.
Phil
Yeah.
Collins.
It's way too
Ugh.
much. Yeah, sorry, Brent, you lost it. You can't put a just soundtrack playlist on there and put songs that aren't on the soundtrack. That's false advertising. I don't agree
This
with
is
that,
like
Brent.
the songs you. This is like one of those, the bullcrap things of like, songs inspired by the movie.
Yeah,
It's
that
like
annoys me.
songs I wish were in the
Yeah.
film but aren't.
Yeah.
There's a couple that are in there that I did like that I'd never heard of before. And the Comsat Angels, I'm Falling, that was during the first study montage.
That was good.
Really good. And then Chaz Yankel, number one, which sounds like an optimistic name for a pop song you're putting out in the
They're
80s.
hoping.
And that was during the second study montage. So they were new to me, and they were obviously prominent because you're not getting any dialogue. You're just getting the montage. But they were new to me, so I was quite pleased with that, to find a couple of new 80s artists.
As soon as
that I'd
those
never come across
montages
before.
came on, I thought of you.
I love a good
I
montage.
knew you'd love it.
Yeah.
I thought the songs though I liked them as songs. I thought they were for montages quite low energy though. Like so you usually in a montage you're
They're
expecting
studying.
it to be
Both montages,
Yeah.
they're just as kids studying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was expecting like a proper like Revenge of the Nerds, like you gotta put one foot in front of the other. There's something like gets you kind of your foot tapping. But this is like no, it's going at a steady old pace, and it's like these things take time,
I'm happy with that though, Niall. I don't need
Speaking of montages, have you guys ever listened to? It's on SoundCloud. It's called by the Blood Brothers, and it is. There's like 2 different versions of this, and they're like 3 or 4 hours long, but it's just a supercut of 80s montage songs like smushed together into like this like girl party-esque like flow with like some actual beats. It's amazing stuff. It's so good to listen
Nice.
to.
This sounds cool.
nice. It's my
But yeah, you check it out. And actually, I'll send you the link so you can post it later. But it's still like I've been listening to this for 6 years now, on and off, and it's still there. So
Well, it's going on the
It's my-
social
it's my-
media, people.
That's my
Yep.
bedtime sorted out. Now I've got a note here, right? It's actually the last note on my list that we haven't really talked about. I'm going to need your help on this one, guys. Now I watched this movie earlier today for the very first time. I was typing notes on the computer as I was doing it, and there's a note here I'm doing this in chronological order as we go down. I didn't rearrange them. This is just me watching the movie. I've got the second note I typed out. I don't know what I mean here. I don't know what this note's all about.
I love that.
There's only two words. Dead mouse.
The dead mouse aren't played on the soundtrack either, as far as I'm aware.
What is going on
Dead mouse.
with that note?
Is it an experiment or?
Dead mouse?
Did you find a dead mouse in your house before you while you were watching the movie by
I
chance?
don't know.
No, hang on. No, isn't there an
where I'm getting
experiment at the beginning where there's a mouse and then there's a mouse?
Oh yeah. So they have in the science fair. There's the first science project you see. It's
Yes.
got the mouse drinking water.
That's it.
And then it's got
yeah.
like the mouse drinking
Drinking
alcohol. And it's
alcohol.
not dead. I think it's just asleep in the
Passed
bottom.
out.
It's showing like alcohol.
It's just drunk. Yeah.
at? That's it, George. You got it. I knew it. Good man.
It reminded me though, and this was a grim thing to get first thing in the morning, but like I have a friend who has frequent rodent problems in his house.
Ooh.
And the other day he sent us a message where he's like, yeah, I caught three mice in one glue trap.
Oh no, that's when you know you've got a problem, a real problem.
He sent a picture of like these 3 mice trapped in the glue trap. It's like, oh my god, that's horrible. And he's like, yeah, you think that's horrible? I had to freaking kill them afterwards. You have to fold it over and stomp on it. It's horrible.
Ooh.
But that's just like, why have you gone for glue traps? That's disgusting. And he's just like, don't like, hey, I've tried everything else. I've tried the friggin' sound wave thing that's supposed to emit the thing that will scare them off. I've tried the humane traps. I have tried every goddamn thing, and all they've got me down. The only thing that's working is these friggin' glue traps. So just sue me. Like this is the only way I'm getting rid of these goddamn mice. And he's got 2 kids in the house, so it's like, well, I guess you gotta get rid of them, really, don't you? But yeah, it was just I was horrified. First thing I saw on like Wednesday morning was this WhatsApp message with a picture of 3 dying mice stuck to a sheet of paper.
You should put some alcohol down for them and they'll just pass out.
There you go.
Yeah, and then there's easy to catch.
The one time too, I did have to kill a mouse in this guy's house when I went around one time because they had that, back when you could take holidays, way back in the before times. You always like, oh, go around and check the house for me while I'm gone and stuff. Like, oh, no problem. He had put down poison, and the poison only half worked. So there was this dying mouse kind of like dragging itself around on the floor, and it's like,
Oh, no.
I guess I got to do something. And I was like, the only thing I can do is like beat it to death with a broom. Like, him asking like, oh, how's the house? Oh, fine. I beat a mouse to death in your kitchen. But beyond that, everything's hunky dory.
Like, yeah, so basically, basic.
Someone asked me a question one time, and it went something like this: if you're driving along at night, it's like you're in the wilderness, no one else around, and you hit like a full-grown stag, and you pull over, you stop the car, you go back and you look at it, and it's like it's mortally wounded, right? And you think, all right, I've got to put it out its misery. But all you've got is a pencil.
Ooh.
Could you do it?
If you stab it in the right place, yeah.
Yeah, but could you?
Yeah, but could you do it, George? Theoretically, yes, but would you be able to actually stab the thing in the head?
I don't know.
I mean, if it was really suffering like that, probably, because I couldn't watch that, and I wouldn't want to leave knowing it was there.
Is that what the other option is? Like strangling it to death? That's even
peacefully
worse.
Or get a big rock.
suffocate it.
I think the rock's even worse.
Suffocate with a plastic bag over the head.
Yeah,
That's a bit,
it'll peacefully drift off that way.
Do you have a pillow in the car?
asphyxiate it in the back of your car.
People then dragging it like, oh, I'll tie the top of the car, bring it home, and then by the time it's back, it's
Take your
completely
car
back down.
and back it right up to its face so it carbon monoxide kills
There
it.
you go. There you go.
Yeah, get it high first.
If you have any duct tape, just duct tape its face to the exhaust ports.
Oh my god.
I like the way we're talking about this. Clearly, we've run out of notes.
Yeah, I think we've reached the end of Real Genius.
What a movie.
What other ways would you kill animals that you need to be killed?
we were quite
We've reached
positive.
the animal murder portion of the podcast.
We were quite
You
positive
just
on
signed.
this overall, I feel. Neil was a bit more in the middle, but,
But for some reason, I thought this would be the
Typical
movie to
Arrow,
break Neil. I thought this was good. I remember being
Nah.
so happy when you
Try
reviewed
again.
Joker with us
Yeah,
last
Neil,
year.
I'm
Neil.
legitimately surprised you didn't take to it.
Why did you think that I would like it so much, George?
Because it's like a fun, like silly 80s vibe, you know? It does have like some tonal shifts, but it's mostly like along the lines of a lot of the movies you also like.
Plus, you did Gremlins, which has tonal shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder if a lot of people watched. I'm assuming I like it this much because I watched it when I was a kid, so it has that thing. And
I was going to say, do you think this falls under the Goonies auspices of like, you only like Goonies if you saw it when you were a kid? If you watch Goonies as an adult, it doesn't land?
Yeah.
See, I watched this for the first time today, so I'm weird though, so I don't know. But then other people I know who I showed the Goonies to in my like say late 20s, they hated it. Every one of them.
What's people's problem with the Goonies?
I don't know. It's great.
It's great. I mean, I saw it when I was a kid and loved it. So I mean, I've got
that's going to be the thing. Is like if you've got a group of people here who saw the Goonies when they were kids,
do you know
they're
what
not going to be able to
people's
answer
objections is, George? Why do people who just see it as an adult not like it?
Goonies?
Yeah.
I just think it's like, for some reason, because it's such a kid-focused movie, it just doesn't translate to like adult like connectivity. So if like you try to show like a 25-year-old who'd never seen it right now, they'd be like, no, I don't get this.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a kid
enough.
to relate to a kid. That's the thing.
But I feel like if you're an adult and you see the Goonies, if you don't like it, then you shouldn't like Stranger Things either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's got that same vibe.
It's totally.
A lot of adults do like Stranger Things.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, but I like both, so
Yeah.
I'm not the one to talk to. I guess I can't rationalize why other people would choose and not like something that's great.
Did you guys have anyone on the Mogwai Minute who had just come to Gremlins in adulthood and didn't like it?
Oh, we got many people who was like, I've never seen the movie before. I'm like, all right, watch it before you come on, or don't. Come on and talk about it. You know,
because it's been a long time since I listened to the show. Now, did you have? I can't even remember anybody coming on to your show, been like, "Oh, it's trash."
I don't think like some people were like, "Oh, it's real. It's a lot darker than I thought it was," and they like definitely made mention that it was like kind of scary and creepy. But no one was flat out like that was garbage.
Jerry from Indiana Jones Minute didn't like it, but that's just Jerry.
Yeah,
but he was also traumatized by it as a kid.
True. No, but I think Gremlins. Just come back to Gremlins. I think Gremlins is it's a far superior movie to Real Genius.
Agreed.
Actually, yeah,
it has puppet effects that are done very well in my book. That raises it up. But to me it holds together much better because of the amalgamation of the horror and the comedy. It's a horror comedy, a horror or a comedy.
Yeah.
And this one, as I said earlier, for me, it tries to set out to be semi-serious with the whole government thing, and then it gets into screwball college campus hijinks, and it doesn't really kind of gel them as well as Gremlins gels its duality of genres. How about that?
Yeah, I agree. Despite liking this, I agree. I would still recommend, if people haven't seen this and they've listened through all of this and we've ruined the movie for them, I would still recommend you go and watch it, though. I think there's a good chance a lot of people will have fun. It's not going to blow you away, but you'll have a nice time.
It's an enjoyable 80s romp with like interesting moments of like pathos, but mostly just a pretty low stakes comedy.
Yeah. If you like Val Kilmer, it's cool.
It's got it's Val Kilmer playing very against what we know him to be like today. And things like, we can, there's so many jokes that we've not really mentioned that were, fantastic and stuff. And it's just like, the performances are very charming. You got friggin' Val, Michelle Meyerink, even friggin', what's the name of the guy who plays Mitch? It's like Gabriel Jarrett.
He's
doing much these days.
Gabe Jarrett, yeah. No, he hasn't done anything ever.
But the thing is, they didn't get another classic douchebag William Atherton performance. It's like, it's an easy, 100 minutes or however long it is.
If it's your bag, it's the best Val's looked, I think. He looks pretty good in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
He looks
very, very sexable Val.
Well, I think it was you. I think it might have been you, George, who said that Batman Forever Val was peak ability for him. Or was it? Maybe it was someone else. I'm trying to remember now. I remember at one point someone deemed Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne as being peak Val.
Right, he was up there, but I would take Real Genius Val over.
That hair! Look at that hair.
I would go Iceman.
That's too cheap.
Cool and.
See, my only beef with him in this Real Genius look is the aggressive lack of sideburns. Like he is got a great head of hair, but then it gets to the top of the ears, and it's got nothing. There's not a hint
Well,
of
if you want to talk
sideburns
about
there.
hair, what about Laszlo's monster
Ew.
snuffleupagus mullet?
I think
Gross.
I
It's gross.
side with Laszlo because as a balding man, I feel if I grew out my hair, it would be a poor rendition of what Laszlo's got going on. Quite frankly,
That might have been like the last hurrah for John Grease's hair, because
What was he in then? Where's he famous from?
I mean, you've seen him in Napoleon Dynamite and a bunch of other stuff. Like he's Uncle Rico in that. Like he's all over the place.
yeah. And again, too, in terms of performance, you say what you want about the character of Laszlo. I thought he did a great job with what he was supposed to do. Like he was, everything
Yeah.
about it was. Again, it might be biased because I grew up with it, but it's like, I can't fault the movie. Like it's just like it is what it is.
I think he should have been played by the organ grinder from Batman Returns.
Oh, yeah.
That would have worked too. Yeah,
He should have been.
Well, he's just like an older version of John Grease.
Yeah, the legendary Vincent Chiavelli, R.I.P.
Oh yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
On
That would have nailed it for me. I would have given this a one notch higher on the.
it would have been a 10 out of 10
scale.
if just
Yeah,
with that one.
Not
shit.
quite.
on that bombshell, we should probably depart, should we not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other note I have is that the writer of this, Neil Israel, also wrote such other classics as Police Academy,
Great
Police
movie.
Academy 2, Their First Assignment, Police Academy 3,
Oh, no.
Back in Training,
Ugh.
Police
We're going
Academy
downhill.
4,
No.
Citizen Patrol. Police Academy 5,
Yes,
No!
no,
Assignment.
5 is great. I love 5.
Police Academy 6, City Under Siege,
Not good.
and Look Who's Talking 2, then Police Academy 7, Mission to Moscow. So.
Wow.
I quite
That's
like
terrible
the
movie.
two. I say two. There isn't a third one. Sure. The two Look Who's Talking films.
They're all right.
But the
He
first
also
one
wrote
is a
Bachelor
problem.
Party. You skipped over Bachelor Party. Tom Hanks's star-turning vehicle.
I've never seen
yeah,
it.
thanks.
Before we do go, would our lovely guests like to say where they can be found online or anything you're working on at the moment? I know, Neil, you did mention your upcoming thing.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I guess you can hear both George and I on the Mogwai Minute. It's still up there.
Still going.
Still
circulating
there.
anyway.
You never know. There may be some additional content at
Gremlins
some
content
point.
at
Who
some
knows?
point.
Who knows? We did promise or threaten if they ever did this animated Gremlins thing, we might have a look at it. And I little spoiler for the listeners of this particular show. I'm trying to persuade George to watch Waxworks.
Oh.
Yeah, that's been in the
We've thought about that
persuading
for a little while.
for a while.
We'll get. Maybe we'll get to that at some point, Joe. I'm personally not looking forward to it. But so maybe we'll get to that at some point. But yeah, I am recording a new show as well with a couple of friends of mine. George has been a guest on it fairly recently. It's not launched yet. You can't see it. You can't find it on the airwaves just yet. But at some point, we'll start releasing episodes. And it's a show called Science and Magic, the films of Studio Ghibli, where we talk about each of the Studio Ghibli films in release order. Just an hour and a half for each movie, not the old 1 minute per episode.
No, you'd be doing it for about 20 years.
Treatment. That would be. Someone else is doing that, I think.
Yeah,
Which
it'd
is
be a long time.
good on. But yeah, that's something to keep your eyes and ears open for.
I'm
dear listeners.
excited. And George, have
Yeah,
you got
and I
anything?
actually just launched a new podcast as well. The first episode is out. You can listen to it. It's called Elementary, My Dears. It is an episode-by-episode analysis of the CBS show Elementary.
Excellent.
So dipping into some Sherlock Holmes vibes there.
And of course, Way to Do Minutes, imminent. I'm
Still
assuming
waiting
now.
on
Time
it.
now.
Still waiting on it.
Time
That is,
now.
You've only got to wait one
still
more
waiting on
minute.
it.
One more minute.
I would also like to plug a show I just became familiar with, just to get it out there. It's called Hollywood. It's a fantastic deep dive into authors and
great.
like the things that drove them. The first season revolves around authors who are known for their substance abuses, and it's fantastic. It's by a podcaster in Australia named Key Whiskey, and she's just. It's like you must remember this, but for authors, it's fantastic.
Oh, okay,
Wow.
that does sound really good.
Yeah,
actually.
I'm on
Nice.
board.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And you all know where to find us, I'm sure. But just in case, come and speak to us on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram. It's the same, isn't it? Or is it the Bat Minute?
I think it's the Batman for Instagram, I believe.
It's been so long since I've plugged it, I actually don't recall. And come and check out our Patreon for our network, Sleepy Charlie Media, because you'll get loads of back content, and we're gonna ramp up again very soon. We had a little bit of a break for a month there, and we're gonna kick into high gear before too long. So come and do that and join us again soon for more. Well, not really Bat Minute, but some kind of Bat Minute related content.
I can't stand this indecision, married with a lack of vision. Everybody wants to rule the